But alongside many other voices, there are families of hostages who want an end to it. They are worried in particular at the new offensive in Deir al-Balah, where it is thought some hostages are being kept. Now, at different points in this conflict, we in other programmes have heard from Sharone Lifshitz, who's a British Israeli whose parents were taken hostage back on October the 7th. Sharone's mother was returned alive, but her father, Oded, was killed. His body has been returned. Now, Sharone comes from a family of peace campaigners. She's long been against the conduct of the war by Israel. We caught up with her today, and I asked what her message to Benjamin Netanyahu would be.
Finish this war. Say yes to agreeing in the long term to a solution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. It has to be long-term agreement, which will then, on the basis of it, will allow Israel to normalize relationship with other Arab countries, and before everything, return all the remaining hostages, and then bring a lot of aid into Gaza.
Yeah, and I'm sure Benjamin Netanyahu would say, I want to get the hostages back. I'm working on that and finishing off Hamas. These are both our objectives. They've always been our objectives. But Sharone, you have been saying this. You've been totally consistent in saying this. Why is Netanyahu not listening to you, do you think?
You know, for him, it's the way he survived politically at this point. He's an incredibly shrewd man who is ready to sacrifice other people's life and other people's well-being for his political gain and for retaining the coalition, where he has a coalition with very right-wing people. Look, you know, Israel, is a country that is divided between those that really believe in holding to all the land and those who believe that we need to reach agreements for our survival. If you ask my mom, who was a hostage for 17 days, it's very clear to her that the way we can survive as a country, internally and externally, is through reaching long-term agreement. You can call them peace, you can call them no war, call them what you may. It's agreements that will sustain life. It's agreements that will allow both countries to begin healing and working towards creating a space in which future generations can really live here in security and believe in their life here.
Yeah, there are many on both sides, of course, who are less interested in sharing the land. And who at the moment is the bigger obstacle, do you think, to what you're really advocating, a two-state solution, which is what the British government would advocate and what lots of Western governments want to happen?
The bigger obstacle I can see is the fact so many people do not believe in our capacity as human beings to see our pain across the divide. You know, the Israeli society is incredibly traumatized. I come from a community that is incredibly traumatized. You cannot tell people who held the door and saw their loved one being murdered that it's all going to be a garden of roses. But you can work towards bringing the people home and giving them the ability to build their life. And, you know, we have hate on both sides, and that hate is stopping us from being able to see each other as human beings, to acknowledge the pain of the other side.
Sharone, tell me, you said Israelis want the hostages home, they want an end to it. Tell me what Israelis are feeling about the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza at the moment. And when you say they want the hostages home, are they thinking only of the hostages, or are they also thinking of Palestinian children killed and everything going on inside Gaza?
I think that many of them are not able to sympathize with the suffering of the Palestinians. I regret that. I think that in the same boat, it's almost, they are not exposed to it. If they consume most of the media from Israeli media, they are not exposed to it. They also have very little faith in international media, in the BBC, in terms of giving an unbiased picture, and especially they truly and rightly, to some extent, believe that Hamas is held responsible to what is happening in Gaza now and throughout the whole thing, and that Hamas is so absent from the conversation that conversation always result in just being Israelis and civilian population. But I wish there was more of space for people who just really, just went through another war in Iran to also see the suffering of the other side.
Sharone, I'm talking to you. You're very close to the family kibbutz from where your parents were taken. Your family's been through so much in the last couple of years. I'm wondering how you're feeling about it all. How easy it is for you to be right there. A couple of miles from Gaza as we speak.
Yeah, and a couple of miles from 9 members of my kibbutz who are still held hostage. There's still 20 live hostages in Gaza. We know that they are in terrible state, and it's just horrific. It's very hard for hostages that came back, like my mom, to really begin recovery without these hostages being back. And we don't see a reason for them being back, meaning we are very clear that there's no need for for the government to continue the war. All the heads of the IDF have said that they've reached what need to be reached now in Gaza. I disagree with this war for a very long time, but even if you follow the IDF logic, there's no need to be there. We are at the moment facing the extended fighting in Deir el-Balach area that we know there are hostages there. It's untold suffering. It's untold suffering that we bear witness to every day, and there's really no words. It's very, very hard to understand how so much suffering is taking place.
Sharone Lifshitz there, British Israeli, whose parents were taken hostage.